Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word. Welcome back to our daily word. It is Monday, September 9th. It's been just over 3 months since we've gathered for our daily word and our conversation through Scripture and how it applies to our lives and how we live our lives better because of this Scripture that comes to us in the daily word. So I decided to take a little hiatus after my surgery, but it's time to get back to it. It's time to get back to a little normalcy in my life. And this is part of that, part of this daily routine that is important to me and to many of you, I know. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for catching back on with me after all of this time apart. So I chose this scripture on purpose, of course, today. And I think it applies to all of us. It's a personal thing. It applies to me very well. This idea, or what happens to us, or what our faith's about when mountains don't move. And so we hear this scripture from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 17, verses 20 through 21. And these are the words: Jesus said to them, "For truly I tell you, if I have the faith the size of a mustard seed, and you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." Now, mustard seeds are some of the smallest seeds in nature. They grow to some of the biggest plants from the very smallest of seeds. Now, I'm reminded, and I believe that we are all born with a measure of faith. Now we have to grow it, and throughout all of our lives, we have people who come into our lives with us and make a difference in our lives and move through us and help our faith to grow. But we're born with a measure of faith. And it could be that faith that's as small, as tiny as a mustard seed, the smallest of seeds, that then nurtures and grows. But Jesus gives us something different to think about. You know, um, we get stuck, I think, because we struggle through life, and it's one of the things that I wanted to share this morning. One of the things I chose the scripture for today. I have plenty of faith. I have seemingly boatloads of hope and deep wells of love and lots of people who care for me. And we go through difficult times, as I have, as you have, and they're struggling kinds of things that we go through. And someone said to me the other day, and I hope she won't mind that I share this with you all. I don't think she will. She said to me when we were at lunch the other day, she said, "Jim, I just want you to know that you're an inspiration to me." And I don't understand it. And she said, "Well, with all the pain that you're in and all the difficulties you have, that you still do what you do all the time and you have a smile on your face, and it's just encouraging." The mountain that I wanted to move had really very little to do with my heart surgery, but all to do with my leg. Yesterday morning was a difficult day in church. I had to sit down more than I wanted to. I couldn't stand exactly like I wanted to. It was a difficult thing. Perhaps perhaps you and I have encountered mountains that no amount of faith will move. Perhaps you and I we're weary, maybe we're weary from banging our heads against what seems impossible. But does that mean our faith is worthless? Does that mean Jesus was clueless when he said these words? Does it mean we're doing faith wrong? I don't think so. It's easy to fall into that dangerous kind of thinking. You see, there's faith, and then there's magical thinking. There are mountains which will, over the eons of time, become as moving molehills. And then there are glaciers whose melting we observe with very anxious hearts. And there are miracles of all shapes and sizes and time frames. And then there's the way that things work, or the way that things don't work most of the time. We may hope against hope that things will work out. Faith is trusting that, even when they don't, God's love will carry us through somehow. Faith is realizing that sometimes, and this is where I've come to this, and this is kind of where I've been hanging my hat recently. Faith is realizing that sometimes the mountain that needs moving is us. The mountain that needs moving is us. Jesus said, look, you don't have to have this extreme, exorbitant amount of faith. Like some of our ancestors, people, pioneers of faith in our lives, or pastors or Sunday school teachers, who we think about them. I think about people I knew, and I think of their faith as this huge, gigantic boulder that they carried around with them. But Jesus says, no, look, if you have the faith just the size of a mustard seed that you can roll between your fingers, and you say to the mountain, move, it will move. Because nothing will be impossible for you. And maybe, just maybe, that mountain that's in the way, that needs to be moved, is me, is you. To understand that in the midst of life, not everything's perfect. And because things don't change for the better, because I, for one, haven't had a miracle in my leg, in my hip, in my knee, in my foot. This leg gets worse, it seems, every day. I've prayed for it and prayed for it. I've done therapy. I've done x-rays. I've done CT scans. I'm headed for an MRI in a couple of weeks. Maybe that'll show something. But then there is this thought that for me and for you, maybe it's us, that needs to move and allow God to work in a new way in our lives. And I wonder about the possibility of that. We bang our heads against what seems impossible. But faith, this measure of faith that we're giving, is what sustains us, is what guides us. It's what helps us get out of the way when we need to. The prayer that I've learned to pray recently, and when I mean recently, I mean it's in recent days or weeks or less, that when mountains won't move, I ask God to give me faith enough to see how I can move. And when mountains won't move, that God would give me the courage to climb them. So that's where God's calling us. So you and I, we have this measure of faith. I know for some of you, your faith is much bigger than mine. It's eons bigger than mine. I get that. But there's good comfort to know from the scripture that if we have just this mustard seed faith, God can work with it and move us through, above, around, even maybe move the mountain. And that's good news for us. So I hope that's a good word for you today. It's a personal one, I know, and we'll get past the personal ones. I promise. We'll get past them. So thanks for joining me this morning for our time together. Thanks for sharing your life with me in all kinds of ways. I said it yesterday. It's how we are in community. It's how we taste and see the goodness of God in our midst. So thanks for joining me. As always, and I haven't said it for a long time, know of God's love for you today and know of my love for you. And I will see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.